Hey Reddit, what's something your teacher did that, if caught, would have gotten them in serious trouble? Nothing. She gave out textbooks and told the class to teach themselves. I complained like 3 times. Math teacher in 6th grade. Halloween. Girl comes in as a hillbilly with a butt flap on her pants. Teacher asks if we can see a little booty. She flashes him her ass. He says, alright. My kindergarten teacher wouldn't let me go to recess because I was left-handed. She would also hit my left hand with a ruler and put stickers on my right hand to encourage me to use it one more. This was in the late 90s. I had a teacher that was trying to show us pictures of her kids on her phone. She scrolled over a nude of herself and we all saw her tits. Near the end of my GCSE year, this arsehole was giving my physics teacher hassle. Got right in his face. 67-year-old physics teacher just headbutts the little ducker. Retires a week later. The ex-army teacher who does cadets at my school once sent his bull terrier running after a half-Indian student and shouted, "Get the packy." One student had a baby in grade 9, during which time she happened to have this one teacher. She married that teacher immediately following graduation. The kid is the spitting image of the teacher. My theater director bit a kid's butt. She was a crotchety old woman and there was an argument about putting up the set after a tour. She and the kid ended up in a good-natured tussle where they both fell to the ground. As he was trying to get up and away, she just bit him solid in the butt. There's no way to make it sound like it wasn't weird, but it really wasn't. Because in theater, nothing's weird. Also technically can't get fired for it, but had a teacher who would sleep with the hot girls right after they graduated. Well, she did get caught and fired. She told a turbaned kid in her class to go take that stupid towel off your head. My biology teacher flirted outrageously with all the girls. We were about 13 or 14, and the accounts got so numerous that one of the boys in my class created the Gilmore files, essentially logging all the behavior that would have gotten him fired. If we had wanted to, we never did. We quite liked his class because he let us slack off and eat food and whatnot. The file, I'm sure, is long dead, but crimes included letting a girl sit on his lap for the entire class while teaching, pull up your top collie, you're giving me an Eiffel Tower, throwing a chair at a student because she threw a ruler first, threatening corporal punishments to the girls whenever a boy misbehaved. One of the girls suggested the same punishment. He responds, "No, that's disgusting." Bizarrely enough, the whole class got very good grades that year. My physics teacher told us kids will ruin your life, so it's better to put it up the bum. My year 10 physics teacher taught us how to make explosives. Back in the 70s, one teacher had us all draw perfectly proportioned swastikas in a technical drawing class. Another teacher had this thing about caning boys in front of the class. Perfectly legal at the time, but taking girls into a vestibule to spank them in private. At the time this all seemed normal, but now it seems fucking outrageous. One of the teachers at my school had this conversation. Teacher, I'm going to the restroom. Just do your work. Student takes out his phone. Do you need some porn? You can borrow my phone. Teacher takes out his phone. I got my own. Leaves. My 8th grade teacher called top-heavy fractions dolly parting fractions. Girls would threaten to complain and he'd tell them he was going to retire at the end of the year anyway. He didn't retire. My high school chemistry teacher literally did not give a duck about anything and often let students, myself included, access her PowerSchool online grading database for my school and change our grades to our whim. Drinking in front of the children. It took 3 years to get her fired. Went to school in a considerably affluent part of CT, but despite this we hired some crazy teachers. My sophomore year a math teacher was hired mid-semester and fired a few months later because it was discovered he was having sex with one female student and another female student was filming it. He paid them in grades. When security came to escort him out, he threw one of those chair and desk combos out the window. Speaking of security, the security guards at my school wound up getting fired for dealing drugs to all the students. And finally we had a teacher who was fired after I graduated who got caught banging a student in the back of his SUV in the parking lot while they both were high on coke. As it turned out, this has happened with other students also. Back in high school, my history teacher wanted us to learn about the invasion of Normandy D-Day, so he decides to show us the movie Saving Private Ryan, and he left to the restroom. But he mistakenly inserted the wrong VHS cassette and we ended watching whole 5 minutes of two topless women in a boxing match. I had an ongoing affair with a teacher my senior year of high school. Till the teachers at my school are pretty lame. We had this trainee teacher come in. He was one of those guys who tried desperately to be accepted into the twisted social circles of high school. It was so painful to watch him attempt to gain cronies by giving us a list of good porn websites. They weren't even that good. We also had a trainee counselor come in. Don't know what the hell he thought he was doing, but he talked about BDSM. Someone asked him about it because he wouldn't shut up about how much he knew about sex and the real world, and spouted bullet. A student corrected him and he called that student a world-class slut. In his time here, he also managed to completely degrade people who self-harm, preach that teen parents should kill themselves, and express his violent, homophobic intentions. Man, I just cringe thinking that he's going to be working in schools, talking to young people. Back in my high school, kids had this hilarious things where they would say to other students, "Hey, you dropped your gay card." If the person looked down, OMG haha gaayy, retards. But anyway, one kid tries to do this trick to our head teacher. "Oh, I sir, you dropped your gay card." Head teacher stops, looks down, and reaches onto the floor to pick up the invisible gay card. He looks at it straight-faced and then simply says, "Strange, it has your name on it." Then the legend hands him the ducking card. Those kids never lived that one down. We had a cover teacher for a couple of days when I was about 8. She was a heavy-set Jamaican lady. Her accent amused us at the time as we were 8-year-old English kids in a village school, and she didn't seem to enjoy teaching us all that much. Anyway, she went off on a wild tangent about how easy it is to abduct and overpower children of our age, since we were pissing her off with our obnoxiousness. To prove this, she asks for a volunteer. One bold young gentleman steps up to the challenge. She walks over to him, quietly says "just watch," and proceeds to snatch him from the ground and throw him over her shoulder into a fireman's carry-like position. She swings him around a bit while we all scream in delight, then puts him down and continues teaching like normal as if this mammoth feat of strength did not take place. TLDR. Jamaican teacher pulls a wrestling move on an 8-year-old. I dunno if this would get him in trouble. I had a history teacher who would play WoW during class. I can't imagine you could raid very well during a test. I'll do a little opposite of what you're asking. Students got expelled and the really attractive teacher quit because the two students took pictures up her skirt and decided to share them with whole school. And another story was a female teacher had a threesome and smoked weed with my friends pretty often. She was never caught. Me and an old science teacher have an ongoing game of ninja where we sneak on each other and chop each other's necks. He's hidden in teachers' closets to get me. He also made constant dirty jokes and ragged on students when they acted stupid. He's a great guy. I went to an American school in Guatemala in middle school. My Spanish class had a field trip to the zoo and the teacher drove us in his car. On the way home he picked up 2 hitchhikers and had 2 of us ride in the trunk all the way back to school. Edit. Spelling. My PE teacher back in high school was sleeping with a student. Oh. And he was just caught a few months ago from these events years back. He's in jail now. Senior year I had an English teacher who was obsessed with my best friend. She was very lenient with his grades and his best friend's grades, me. She would let us hand in at work and hand them in weeks late and still get good grades. He would also go on her computer and change kids' grades during class in front of everyone, but no one would complain because he was giving us higher marks. Except for his ex-girlfriend who was in her other class in which he gave her a D. She would also text him to go to grill outs with her and also gave him money for gas and coffee for him and her. She also got him a body kit for his car, $500, and a high-end electric smoking kit, because he was trying to stop smoking. TLDR teacher wanted my friend's D so she would let him do whatever he wanted and bought him a lot of stuff. A teacher threw a stapler at me and choked me once for misbehaving. I was 10. She got fired. I always hated the inspection day at gym class. In computer repair class we would play Half-Life or Counter-Strike every day. There were 6 of us plus the teacher. He was also the computer admin for the district, so he wouldn't even be in class sometimes. A couple times we even met up on Saturday and played all day. I had that class for 3 years in a row. My HS band teacher accidentally shows us a home porno instead of the video about last marching comp. Apparently he didn't rewind the tape all the way. My grade 1 teacher duct taped a kid to his chair from his shoulders to his feet because he wouldn't sit still. She also failed him that year. In grade 11 my friends and I used to troll each other in the library by placing books into each other's backpacks. Our library had security tags on all of the books and a little scanner with a metal gate that locked if you walked through it trying to steal their books. One day I walked through and set the alarm off unknowingly and then proceeded to walk into the gate that was locked and it busted open. The librarian ran over, asked what happened, and I told her I just had a slow reaction time. She yelled, "I'll show you a slow reaction time," and then backhanded me across the face. Afterwards she was so terrified of losing her job and all my friends and I did was laugh. Never ended up reporting her, but she quit giving us a hard time. For reference, this would have been in 1999. My 5th grade teacher locked me in a closet for being too hyperactive. I told my mom, but she didn't really care. My substitute English teacher would spank girls' bums as they walked past, would have over sexual discussions in class, and would stand behind you so he could look down your shirt. When I was about 11 I remember one of my teachers sucking a girl's thumb because he said that she sucked it too much. I have since heard that he has been fired. When I was in 3rd grade my elementary school recommended that I be put in a special school for kids with disabilities. I had to have ADD. It was a massive overkill on their part. They placed me with children who were severely disabled, blind, low functioning, autistic and severely deformed. Well, this new school had a special way of punishing children. A large cardboard box that was turned upside down over a child's head with very small, what I now know to be air vents, holes cut out to see out. The box covered your whole body. It was dark and you were not allowed to speak. I was in there all the time, being treated like an animal and certainly not learning. Why? For reasons like not eating all my lunch or not listening. My mother didn't believe me at first, but when I began crying every day before school and my mom got concerned, she didn't want to come right out and ask them if they were putting me in a freaking box. They could just lie, so she came in later that day and found me in a box. She did everything but beat the teacher's ass. She lost it and I was so happy to her defending me with such passion. Later she cried with me and said she was so sorry she didn't believe me. She told the principal, who basically blew the whole thing off and said the teacher would reprimanded, but she was not fired. My mom put me back in regular school. I think the school was called Mountain View in Simi Valley. All I remember was that the teacher was Asian and mean as hell. Taught us the theory behind freebasing sugar in chemistry. Back in 4th or 5th grade, which was about 20 years ago now, we were learning about World War II. So my teacher at the time separated us into 2 groups, Jews and Nazis. When lunchtime came around, the Jews, which I was a part of, were only allowed to eat half of their lunch, and then throw the rest away, or give it to the Nazi group. And at recess the Jew group only had 5 minutes or so of recess while the Nazi group had the full time of recess. That day sucked for half the class. I've mentioned it a few times to people, but no one believes me. When I was in 8th grade, some substitute promised a friend of mine a lollipop for doing him a favor. When my friend asked for the lollipop, the teacher told him something to the effect of bend over and get it. He was promptly fired. Our woodwork teacher got so pissed at a student he went and got the student's wood project and just smashed it with a hammer. Pieces went all over the workroom and nearly hit a few kids. Was hilarious looking back, but near myself during this. In 7th grade math class a student would not stop talking, so the teacher tackled him to the ground and then sent him out.